welcome to Table Talk Podcast. I'm David Springer, and I'm joined by Peter, and we are so excited that you have joined us today. We both just had a nice, refreshing weekend away. Neither of us were here at service. How was your weekend, Peter?
It was awesome. Refreshing slightly. It was great family memories. We just got back from the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis.
That's
and
awesome.
So it was a blast. We had incredible memories.
Yeah.
My daughter got to meet her favorite wrestler, but yeah, it's a crowd. 70,000 people.
70,000 people, man.
And
That's
it is
awesome.
a lot of personalities and cultures
guarantee
colliding in one place.
I guarantee it. So my kind of people, that's I just probably a lot of country in there. You know what I mean? And that's
especially where we were sitting.
Yeah.
We're as high as you can go, and so
that's
super nice folks up there.
That's a good weekend. That's awesome. Yep, Brittany and I got away. We've been waiting to, we kind of
A long time.
a while. So once you came, that kind of
Yeah.
took one of the loads off of me.
Yeah.
And then once TCTC was over, we knew we were going to want to do something like that. And so we just went up, nothing special, just up to Pigeon Forge, and just took a couple of days. The grandparents watched the kids, and man, we just enjoyed each other and went and ate a bunch of crazy food and saw a movie and nothing big.
Dude, the older I get, the simpler my requests
I know.
for life are.
Yeah.
Like it gets to a birthday now, it's like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? He's like, I'd love a quiet night at home.
Can I do
I'll go buy some steaks. I'll cook my own dinner. We'll all enjoy and just relax.
Can I take a nap? A nap sounds pretty good. So yeah, that's kind of what it is for us. It's like, what did we do? Well, not a whole lot, and that's kind of the point for us. Is like, man, we'll just take it easy, sleep in, and to just relax, and so it was good. It was really good for us. We were not around 70,000 people, but so that's not quite as low key and stress free, but still good weekend, and it's always nice to get away and just have a moment.
Just those family times and stuff. Like it just, ministry can get crazy.
Yep.
And you're wanting to take care of people and be available for people and stuff, and trying to make sure your family is part of that.
Yeah.
Of being cared for and stuff. So
yeah, for sure. I'm glad you got to do that. We did miss the sermon. We weren't here for this Sunday, but we have been enveloped. We have been all over this. This has been all over us. This vision casting stuff for the past year. Has been something that we've talked about probably every day in the office, and definitely every week. We've had days where we spend 8 hours working straight on this stuff.
Yeah, no, and we were talking earlier, like what I love about this, what I think is so neat, is when I stop and think about how many people have sat at the feet of Jesus praying over this stuff and seeking His wisdom and His vision on this, from staff to leaders, to consultant agents to congregation members and stuff. It's really neat to see how many different people all come to the same conviction.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's so cool to watch it all come together. And something that I've been a part of a little bit of that, but it's fairly new for me, the way that we went about it, and to be able to be really in on that whole process is not something that I don't think I've really been able to do at a church yet. Yeah. And so that's been neat. It's been long. It's been hard. And when you're when you're a 2, part of being a 2 on the Enneagram is like, it's just like, I just want to go. Yeah. And I just like, and so sitting, so that's a hard part of it. But what that does is, when we do get to that point where, all right, it's time, let's go. Like we're starting that now. It's like, oh, we have a reason and we have a direction, and it's really exciting. And I think this weekend with Ron's sermon and with this is a great way to talk about the direction, which is it's kingdom postured. We want to be a church that is kingdom postured. And Caleb and I talked a little bit about it last week about like how we are ambassadors, which is a part of this process. Like we're ambassadors, we're representatives of Christ. And I compared it to the 300, the guy that comes for Artaxerxes, and he's like, I come in the name of Artaxerxes and stuff. And he like comes in, it's like, well, you're not much. It's not you, it's the guy that's behind you that everybody's actually. I'm not scared of the guy that he just kicked in the well or whatever that was. I'm not scared of him. I'm scared of the guy that he represents. And as for us, it's like we need to make sure we know who we're representing. But that's not the only part. I loved how Ron's. I love the idea of Ron's coming in, the way that Ron came at it as like, hey, when we come, we should be coming in a humble posture and gentle, and I think that's really good. Yeah,
one of the big passages that he talked about was when Jesus washed his disciples' feet. Great story, and I loved how Ron even talked about for modern day, it's a bit of an odd example. For them, it made way more sense. But kind of like stripping the culture piece from it and just thinking of it, okay, now we are in their time, this is happening. In that mindset, I remember hearing a preacher talk about, like, as you go around the room, you know, and you're asking, like, oh, everybody would want to wash Jesus's feet. But the question to really ponder is, who would want to wash Judas's feet? Or who would want to wash Matthew's feet? Or who would want to wash, you know, Simon the Zealot's feet? You know, and all across the spectrum, Jesus washed all their feet.
Knew exactly what was coming, and still washed them.
And so that's the thing. Like there's just these times where we kind of get the principle, and so we do this like kind of lackadaisical mimic of Jesus, but we're not truly like following in his footsteps. It's like I hear you about having a kingdom posture, but I'll only do it to a certain extent. And it's like, if you're not willing to go all in, you're not taking the posture. It's kind of like you know, being in youth ministry or you being in children's ministry. When the older you get, motions, kneeling down, it just gets harder. So it's like, you know, so like when you're playing games or doing dances and stuff and you've got to squat to the ground. It's like, you look around the room, there's a lot of adults that are like doing the kind of the fake squat, you know? Like,
your arms are in the
like,
air.
Exactly.
It's just you've bent your knees and your arms are in the air.
Kids are basically doing the worm on the ground, and we're just like if I get a knee on the ground, it's going to take me a while to get back up.
Help.
But that's kind of what I see in myself at times. A lot of us, like we love the teaching of Jesus and we love the example of Jesus, but we don't go all the way to it. And it's just this kind of like, oh man, I'm having near as much fun as that kid right now.
I think that's a great example, and to be all in, and I think it gets easy. I think it gets easy to start thinking of ourselves more than what we are, and so like, well, you know, I do I really have to help with chairs, or do I really need to clean this floor up or whatever? Like, I've been here, I've done that, I've done, you know, a lot of people, I've heard a lot of times, I've done my time with children's ministry. I don't know that. And it's like, to come in and to be humble, to say, hey, wherever I'm needed is where I'm going to be. I think, and I don't want to make this too broad, but our friend Dave DeArmond is a great example. He's 90, he's in his 90s,
Yeah.
and he is humble. He's on it. He's here. He's doing the good Dave, bad Dave stuff. He's doing stuff that it could be embarrassing for him. He's here on Tuesdays doing Tuesday Tinkerers, and he's doing all that stuff from a humble standpoint, and somebody who really loves Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's all written all over him. And he's not he is kingdom postured. For him, all that matters is that people, and for him, a lot of that matters is young people coming to Christ.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's wild. It reminds me of I spent a summer over in Nairobi, Kenya.
Yeah.
And I remember going. It's all surreal, and I don't say that to like brag. Like it was an honor to go.
Yeah.
I still. It seems so long ago.
Yeah. Like another life.
Yeah, it was like just out of college, like a year or two after college, and before marriage and kids and stuff. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. But spent a whole summer there, and I remember one of the first times we got to meet with the missionaries there. They did incredible work, but we had a team like 16, 18 people, and they had like 5 different departments, like education, medical, business, social, and spiritual. And so they let the team like kind of go around one at a time, like, so what would you, where would you like to serve, or what do you feel called to? And this is not to bash, I doubt anybody on that team ever sees me, but it's not to bash any of them. But my buddy and I, we were the last ones. So as it went around the circle, it was just a lot of, I want to do this, or I want to make sure I can, experience this and stuff. And that can tend to be what some short-term mission trips end up being. Like, I want to experience this,
And whatever my specific passion
Yeah.
is, like, I came here to do the children's stuff or whatever.
Yes. And it was odd. And as it went around the circle, my buddy and I agreed, like, hey, we'll just go wherever people don't go.
Yeah.
The wild thing was nobody picked spiritual. It wasn't as flashy sounding.
Yeah.
It's not being able to go into the, to the slums and be with kids and, deliver
teaching
meds
lessons
or stuff like that. And I remember the lady that was in charge of the spiritual part of it, her name was Edna. And there was weeks where one of the things they needed us to do was take a physical textbook for like the kids and turn it digital. And so we're just sitting there typing stuff. Or as other like short-term, like 1 week mission groups would come in, like inventory VBS stuff.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we'd go help out, like hand out stuff to VBS teachers and stuff. But like I remember my buddy and I, we really wrestled.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, did we come all the way to Africa to like do this? But it was about a week before the trip was going to be over, and Edna sat down and talked to us, and she was like, this is I was able to take my first day off in 10 years. And it was like, say what? It was like, you guys had it here. Like you just knew how to do things and stuff. And we're like, well, that's crazy. I don't feel like we really did anything. What we came to find out was Edna started this Missions of Hope with the face of the organization. And they both have their parts to play, but Edna, she started all the other branches.
Wow.
And so she would just go around as if something got established. She moved on and established, move on. And she was this behind the scenes, getting it done. Not once ever heard her complain, like,
Yeah.
and it was just like, holy smokes. I had I had no idea you had such a significant role. She's like,
Yeah.
I don't need that. I'm not doing it for that.
Yeah, I know in children's ministry, that reminds me of what we learned about in the children's ministry for this past week, which is the woman that breaks the jar and pours it all over the oil, all over Jesus, anoints Jesus, the sinful woman. And Jesus says, hey, what she just did will be remembered forever. And what I love about that is she came to Jesus. She knew she was broken. She knew she was lowly, and she gave everything she had to him, and she poured it out. And what I love about that is that she smelled like Jesus. Everywhere Jesus went, she smelled like him. That stuff is powerful.
Yeah.
That smell of that oil is going to be on Jesus all the way up to the cross.
Yeah.
She anointed him for the cross, and she smelled like them. There was no doubt that the people in that room, but specifically her hair and everything, that she had been around Jesus. And Edna was, she had been around Jesus. Dave D. Arman have been around Jesus.
Yeah.
And you can just see it, that people that have poured themselves out, it's not for them. They've come lowly and they've poured themselves out, and it's just this posture of humbleness and of service. And I think that's what we love about this, the idea of kingdom posture.
Yeah, and I always love that story because I feel like the desperation she had, like, and the self-awareness she had, that I need Jesus.
Yeah.
And, you know, the longer we're in a relationship with Jesus, or any relationship for that matter, I think we start to take those relationships for granted.
Yeah.
And we start forgetting things, or being grateful for things. And I think there's a lot of times that we forget where we were when Jesus encountered us.
Yeah.
And if we can hold on to that in a good way, so that we always know our desperate need of Jesus daily, I think it would change everything.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think it can be hard to remember, and I think we can easily fall into a posture of pride, or of making it about me or what I've done. I think that's pretty easy. And I think all of these stories all throughout the New Testament, you just see Jesus, the widow and her mite, like coming with her penny and giving everything that she had. Like that's it. She didn't have anything else, and Jesus is like, look at that, and commends her for doing that. And
those things are super expensive now. In visiting Israel, they have them in gift shops. Like, it's not the widow's mite, but it's the coin she would have thrown in. It's like, well,
yep. And
that went up in value.
That went up in value.
Well done.
Good job.
I hope that temple held on to that.
Wow, she gave $35 to that, or whatever.
Oh no, we're talking hundreds or thousands.
Woof.
Yeah. Inflation, I tell you.
Man, it's gotten pretty rough. Pretty rough. So, hey, I'd probably take $1,000 over 2,000 years. That's not too bad compared to what we've seen. No, so like, just see these stories over and over and over again of Jesus, of praising people who are humble. And we also see Jesus as the ultimate example of being humble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and, talking about Philippians, like going back there to, he didn't even consider equality with God something to hold on to.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because we hold on to so much in this life. And what I think's really neat, I love that Ron referred to that Bema podcast. We can list the link below to Bema and this Good Eyes podcast. The teaching is fabulous. But the rabbinic teaching was, no pun intended, just so eye-opening. Because Ron talked about how it seemed like a very kind of segmented passage of Jesus' teaching, going back and forth between like talking about your eyes and seeing things in light or in darkness, but then going to money and then going back to eyes. But like Caleb says, Scripture is written to us, but not for us. Mm-hmm. Bama does such a good job of explaining who it was written for.
Yeah.
And who it was to, and explaining that good eyes and bad eyes, or healthy eyes and unhealthy eyes, going back to the Hebrew terminology. Like I will butcher the pronunciation, so I'll do the transliterations, but healthy eyes or unhealthy eyes. And one way they looked at healthy eyes was having a generous perspective or a scarcity perspective.
Yeah.
And then the whole passage ties together.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we are to fix our eyes on Christ and look through life through his eyes and in the goodness and like the generous, like to the king with cattle on 1,000 hills, right? But if we look at life from scarcity, like youth ministry, you've done it for a long time. Looking at life through a scarcity perspective, there's not enough attention to go around.
Yeah.
So I gotta, you see kids that are hungry for attention. It's like, that's the amazing thing about God, is he has the capacity to love us all like we were the only one in existence.
Yep.
But if you see it from a scarcity perspective,
Yeah.
then I've got to fight and compete for attention. No, you've just got to be you.
Yeah.
And like, we see you.
Yeah.
And so it was just fascinating, because it was like, oh, this isn't just about financial. Like, sure, that's a part of it. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why, we get scared. Like, bills are, come payday, it's like,
Yeah.
oh boy, okay, it's pay bill day. It's not payday.
Yeah.
And you're just hoping. And I know there's been times where like, should I write the tithe?
Yep.
Or should I pay the bill?
Yeah.
And it's crazy what happens. I know this sounds cheeky, but it's crazy what happens when you just have the faith to say, this is yours.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Perspective and how God has always taken care of Brittany and I with all of that type of stuff. Whenever we've been shocked to see checks come in that were like, where did that come from? When we had nothing, where we were like, I don't know how we're going to be able to do any of this. And God blessed us through all that stuff. And that's the direction we're going into this upcoming week.
Yeah.
Right? Is Caleb will be talking about us as a church living generously.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not just about money. We're talking way more than just financially generous, but like we want as a church to be generous with this building, with our time, with our ministries.
Yeah.
We want to change the world with the assets that God has given us.
Yeah, and I love that Ron tiptoed just a little bit into that and didn't want to go too far. But I love even with forgiveness, right? If I'm looking at things from a scarcity standpoint,
Yeah.
then it's like, no, like, you wronged me, like, you've got to pay the price. But from a generous perspective, it's like,
I'll forgive.
man, yeah. And Bob Goff has one of my favorite quotes about forgiveness, or about grace. He says, grace seems real unfair until you need some.
Yep.
And that really like changed my perspective on things. Like, you're so right. Like,
Yeah.
like, I'm glad grace is not fair.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to we don't want a fair God. I can tell you that much, because if he was fair, Jesus would have never come. He would have never died, and would have never given us the grace that we have not earned or could never earn. Like everybody wants something fair until it comes to them.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been, wow, we ate the fruit. All right, trash can.
Yeah.
Delete file. Like, that'd have been
that's what we deserved. So, but yeah, that's great. And what's cool is I think of like what Jesus did, and it's also something that we can do with forgiveness and with generosity, which is he broke the bread, and a miraculous amount of bread and fish come out of this, and obviously that has like pointing to Jesus being God and him having control. I'm not saying we could break, but like God can use the things that he's given us, and we're faithful with them, and we do them. He'll make it for others too. It'll multiply in ways that we can't ever imagine. And the grace that I've been shown by Brittany, in our marriage and with our kids and with my parents, and like the grace that they have shown me has put me in a position to be able to give grace to others, and that grace multiplies. And it's an amazing part of what God does.
Yeah, I'm excited about to dive into this living generously, because the beautiful things about having open hands and being willing to give is you're ready to receive whatever the Lord has for you. And there is that divine paradox. Like, to embrace all that God has for us, we can't hold so tightly to things. And so I'm excited to see how Caleb dives into that.
Yeah, and he'll do a great job. He's done a great job all along, and I'm excited to hear about it. And we'll be back here next week to talk a little bit more about that. So, Peter, thank you for coming, man.
You bet.
I hope you guys have a great week, and we can't wait to see you on Sunday. Have a blessed end of your week.